Have you ever wondered what the role of the Mayor of Kingston upon Thames involves? Wonder no more, because in today's podcast, I am honoured to be joined by the Mayor, and this is one of the many things we cover during our conversation. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Alison McWhinnie podcast, where we have conversations about business and wellbeing success. And today I am absolutely honoured to be joined by the Mayor of Kingston upon Thames, Councillor Noel Hadjimichael. So residents and businesses in Kingston upon Thames are in for an absolute treat today. Our Mayor is the figurehead of the Royal Borough of Kingston upon Thames. The Mayor is elected at the annual council meeting in May and serves for 1 year. Both the Mayor and Deputy Mayor are members of the council, and our current Mayor is Councillor Noel Hadjimichael. A warm welcome to the podcast. Our current Mayor was appointed as the 191st Mayor of the Royal Borough of Kingston at the annual council on the 13th of May 2025. Having lived in Kingston since emigrating from Australia in March 2016, Councillor Hadjimichael has been a councillor for Canberra Gardens ward since May 2022, and he has served as both a portfolio holder and chaired the Health Overview Panel during his time as a councillor. A former naval officer, lawyer and charity CEO, Councillor Hadjimichael spends his time away from the Kingston Council, chairing a defence and security think tank in central London, as well as volunteering on HMS Belfast for the Imperial War Museum. I'd like to start off, please, by talking about the role and responsibilities and clarifying the differences in role between a mayor and, say, councillors. And so just to sort of go back a bit, how is the mayor chosen for appointment? I know that you're elected, but what is the process that leads to that election?
Well, Alison, firstly, may I thank you for the very gracious and very kind invitation to join you today.
Oh, thank you.
You're asking me to cast my mind back to the 13th of May, but it all happens before the actual ceremonial annual council that we hold. It's a full council where all 48 councillors are expected to attend. Members of the public are in attendance. It's a bit of a full house, but the decision as to how somebody is brought into a situation of becoming the mayor is very much the case that the senior leadership of the council, the leader of the administration, and often in conjunction with some discussions, some dialogue with the leader of the opposition and, say, the leader of the other party. And we have three parties at Kingston. We have the larger group, the administration, which is Liberal, the Liberal Democrats. We have the smaller group, which is the now termed Kingston Independent Residents Group, the Kerr Group, and we have the third group, the Conservatives. And I was touched and I was incredibly humbled when the leader of the council asked me, would I serve as mayor? And it was very much the case, the Kingston way, as we put it, that I was elected unopposed by my colleagues to the term as mayor. And in some ways, you've sort of been volunteered by others, but you have to agree and volunteer yourself. Mm-hmm. But there is one incredibly powerful part of the process which people don't fully realise. A mayor is able to pick from the other 47 councillors a deputy mayor. And it's not determined by, let's call it, the politics of it in any shape or form. It's often you choose somebody who will get along with you. You understand each other. You might complement each other. And I was incredibly lucky that the person who was my first, second, third and fourth choice, Councillor Sue Ansari from Chessington. I'm from North Kingston, and I've been here in the local community for 10 years. Susie Ansari, she's from Chessington in the south of the borough, and she's been, let's say, a lot longer than 10 years on the Kingston scene. And she's the champion for disability on the council. She's highly respected amongst the volunteer community. I'm the only veteran on the council, and I'm also the Armed Forces champion as a councillor. So we sort of were the right mix, even though we are both a little bit older than some of our colleagues. I think you find the right combination, full of energy and approaching it from the right perspective.
And how does the mayor fit into the structure of Kingston Council in relation to councillors, committees, officers?
The mayor presides over what is called full council, and they are the 5 or 6, often it's 5 times a year, when the whole council comes together. The councillors serve also on what's called strategic committees, and I served for the first 3 years as a councillor on those committees. The mayor doesn't sit on those. The mayor doesn't sit on the smaller, be it the 7, 9, 4-person committees that are looking at particular things. The mayor sort of sits, I'm not going to use the term above, but just away from the day-to-day politics, because it's, as I said earlier, it's by character and by nature, wearing these chains that are 200 years old, wow. I am told this year, it is a position where you serve all of the council, all of the councillors, and very much all of the residents. So you are in some ways a bit similar to, in part of your role, a bit like a speaker in a parliament, where you serve the parliament, you don't necessarily have any responsibility to government and opposition beyond making sure that debates are fair, are held correctly, and that everyone gets a fair opportunity to say what they want.
Just drilling down a bit on responsibilities, these are questions that have been asked to me by local residents. Am I safe in assuming that you don't have a role in areas like budgeting, taxation, setting council tax in Kingston?
I think that's absolutely the case. I think what's happened in Britain is that we've had 2 styles of mayors. You have the big metropolitan mayors like Sir Sadiq Khan, Andy Burnham, people who are, let's say, driving the boat. They are an executive mayor, and they set budgets. They run the council. They're a bit like the key decision maker. A mayor in Kingston, by its nature, by the character of the job, the mayor is somebody who presides over the decision making without actually participating in that decision. For example, I've chosen in my year, and Councillor Ansari as deputy has also chosen, and it's our right and our response. It's not an obligation, but it's our right. We've chosen to, of course, not speak in debates because we have to preside fairly, but also we've chosen not to vote. Now, occasionally, in some mayors' times, mayors do actually vote. We've chosen not to vote. It doesn't mean that we're not interested in the decisions of the council. We're vitally interested in them, but we've chosen to stand away from the politics because there's 48 incredibly capable individuals who have strong opinions, have the ability to thrash out the issues and come to a agreed position.
So things also like planning decisions, local developments, environmental and sustainability initiatives, that would all fall within the remit of councillors.
Well, that would fall to the councillors who are on particular committees. For example, we have a significant and large-sized planning committee, and councillors are hard-working individuals. Just about every councillor at Kingston has other responsibilities. They often will have a full-time job. They'll often have family responsibilities. They're involved in the community, and they are allocated and or volunteer for certain tasks. A good example is I have never served in the first 3 years of my council life on any planning committee for the borough. I chose that because there's also the licensing committee, and I chose because of my legal background to serve on the licensing committee. It was maybe where I could add better value. So the councillors are never dragged into an area which they don't want to work in because we share the work around. You don't have meetings of 46 or 48 people all the time. The work is done in smaller groups that have delegated responsibility.
And what role does the role of mayor play at civic ceremonies, for example, Remembrance Sunday, that sort of thing?
Well, I think, Alison, you've hit the nail on the head. If I were to say what is at the heart of this role is the civic and ceremonial life of Kingston. And you would be unsurprised. And we like to always remind people, we are the oldest royal borough in England. We have been a town, a place that has had identity for well on 1,300 years. We've been very much a royal town for at least 1,100 years. We've just had this year the 1100th anniversary of the coronation of King Athelstan as the King of England, the very first time a monarch said, "I am the king, not of this part, Wessex or Mercia or Northumbria or this or that, but I am the king of all the English," which is a big deal in our history. So Kingston, by its nature, by its character, does have a ceremonial life, but it's driven by 400 charities and 300 other community organisations. So if I just went to see volunteers doing good, I would go to 2 different organisations every day, relentlessly, Monday to Sunday. That's how hugely engaging the Kingston upon Thames borough is when it comes to doing good. And so the mayor is involved in formal events like Remembrance Sunday, where the mayor will attend New Malden and Kingston, the deputy mayor will attend Surbiton, and a former mayor will attend, I think, a service in Chessington. We do a lot of services with respect to our civic life. We have the annual crown service at All Saints Church in Kingston. We have an induction service for the Mayoralty. Whenever there's a crisis, whenever there is a period of reflection as a country, Kingston comes together. When we had the proclamation of His Majesty the King, as a councillor, I was there and I watched the proclamation on the steps of the council, and there was the previous mayor in the robes with these chains doing the job. And it's very easy to be tempted to think that it's you, when in actual fact, my wife Carol and I, the Mayoress and I, have probably had 2,500 conversations at civic events with members of the public in the last 5 months.
Goodness.
The person you're talking with, the person you're engaging with, the person who's telling you their story, they're the most important person. It's not the mayor. The mayor has status and it's right and proper, but we are serving the 168,000 residents. I have met and been at wonderful events, and I've met wonderful people doing good, often asking for no recognition, asking for no even visibility. They're just getting on with the job.
And how do you promote Kingston nationally and internationally? Are there opportunities to do so?
I think Kingston is fortunate that we're not an anonymous corner of England. I travel and I'm very engaged in central London in my non-political life. And I never say I live in London. I say I live in Kingston. Kingston has maybe a sense of identity, a sense of place that is reasonably understood by many people. What we do is that the council over many years has worked hard, and it's across administrations. So I recognise the good work over decades of so many councillors who have given their time and their wisdom and their energy to the role. We've worked very hard to make Kingston a destination. And of course, we've got a vibrant cultural life in New Malden, the centre of the Korean experience in all of Europe. We have the fastest growing Hong Kong community in the United Kingdom, in Kingston. We have a thriving and well-established Tamil community. We have a wonderful story on the river. And so in regional and national terms, Kingston does its best, tries to punch above its weight, to use that cliche. We're conducting a resilience roundtable in late November where we're bringing together stakeholders. Hopefully what we do in Kingston, other boroughs may send observers. They may go, that's an interesting opportunity to bring people together for serious conversations. Because the theme for this Mayoralty, chosen by myself and the Deputy Mayor, is resilience. Every year, the Mayoralty tries to focus on something of value. And in these troubled times where there's so much challenging national and local governments and our community, we've chosen resilience, but we've tried to back it up with doing something about it.
Wonderful. And how do you support businesses in the local economy?
I like to think that it's part encouragement, it's part raising awareness, and it's part bringing people together so that they themselves can realign their efforts and can have some collaboration. We have a strong university, we have a strong college, we have a track record of innovation. We have the incubator on the Thames riverside where some talented, younger and maybe not so young, ideas-orientated people are starting new ventures, trying out new ideas, helping to kickstart maybe a small business that has huge impact. I like to think that we can draw also on our heritage. We are and have always been a place of commerce. We are a very busy and very successful retail hub. On a busy day in Kingston, you will have over 250,000 people visiting Kingston for at least an hour. You will have footfall. You do not have to go to West London to experience good food, good shopping, good culture. We have a fabulous museum. We have also the river. We have the delights of a very pleasant Surbiton town centre, the energy of New Malden, and tucked away in all corners of Kingston, there are great places to spend time as a family, be it green space, be it a bit of heritage, even just a cup of coffee and a walk, where maybe the hustle and bustle of central London is forgotten, even for an hour or two.
And what traditions or symbols are associated with the mayoral role? We can see your chains. Are there other things as well?
Three fishes. I think you cannot get away from the fact that we have the three salmon fish that are the symbol of Kingston. You see them on our bollards, or the older ones. I think the newer ones are less ornate. You see it on some of our buildings. You see it in the Fenwick Centre, which everyone knows as the Bentle Centre from years on. It goes back in time to our history, and apparently, and the story is a little bit told differently by different people, but apparently, well after 1066, but not that much after, the tax collectors came to Kingston and they were looking for what is the economic base of the town. We had the river, we had a strong, sort of waterway. We had the bridge crossing, the only other bridge crossing other than the one bridge crossing in London. So it was a key transport hub. And we had, I think it's breweries, and we had salmon fisheries. Now, in some ways, maybe the symbol might have been 5 kegs of beer, but in some ways I'm rather pleased that we finished up with the much more elegant 3 salmon fishes, because maybe the tax collecting investigators thought that the fish farms were a more reliable and possibly a more dependable source of taxation than the breweries, who may or may not have wanted to own up to how much beer they were brewing and selling. So in some ways, the history has shaped the Kingston identity.
Mm-hmm. And do London borough mayors meet and work together for the benefit of London as a whole?
We do and we don't, I think, is the best answer. We find ourselves coming together for ceremonies and events that are of a London focus. I would attend a service at St Paul's or Westminster Abbey. We may be called together for some sort of civic event, but recognising also that the mayors are ceremonial figures and play a role in the community life of our boroughs. The connections between the leaders of the councils who run the administrations is really the key.
Right. I'd like to turn now to your current activities, and we've already touched on your initiatives for the current term. I'd like to look at the charities that you are supporting during your time as mayor. So I think I'm correct in saying every mayor nominates a couple of charities to fundraise during their term. Which charities are you supporting during your time as mayor?
Well, Alison, I had the challenge of which charity and will the charities fit into the mayoral theme. So much choice, but with the mayoral theme, it was possibly somewhat easy to make the final decision that I chose LEAH, Learning English at Home, LEAH. LEAH is a local charity that is well embedded for more than 40 years in our community. The simplest explanation of what they do is that for generations, for decades, they have helped primarily women in a home environment and occasionally in a classroom environment, often newly immigrant to Britain, people who have come with other languages, but with no or very, very modest English language skills. They've helped over a fairly quick period of time. It may take 1, it may take 2, it may take 3 years to bring that individual up to a really strong functional English language proficiency, so that they can talk to the GP with confidence. They can talk to the pharmacist at Boots. They can talk to the person at the supermarket, but they can talk to their children's school teacher without having to use a translation from, say, a 12-year-old daughter who's helping them. It's giving them dignity. And Leah is such a good example of an organisation that relies on volunteers giving of their time, but giving of their skill. Many of the volunteers the Mayoress and I have met at events, and we've been staggered by the depth of ability. Many of, especially, it's overwhelmingly a female group of educators and people assisting those going through the program. The educators, the teachers, for a better word, they've often done 35 years teaching in a school environment. They've done things English as a second language. They've been a translator for the Foreign Office. And at a mature age, or when they've got plenty of other responsibilities and maybe not working full-time, they still find time to help others. So Leah is a great story, and they have been such an energetic and wonderfully local group that have got a track record of changing lives. And that speaks to personal and very much local community resilience, because that helps people be better Britons in our community. The second is maybe a surprising charity, but a charity that's been around for over 100 years. The First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, otherwise known as the Fannies, they are formerly known as the Princess Royal's Volunteer Corps. They're a all-female, female-led volunteer organisation that supports the civil and military administration in the United Kingdom. Think of a crisis, Grenfell Tower. Think of 7/7. Think of the COVID pandemic. Within an hour or two, these hundreds of women from all over London, a significant proportion of the senior and permanent leadership of the Corps are actually Kingston women, people who have been brought up here, educated here, and many of them living in the borough. Within an hour or two, they are on the front line working in crisis management, communications, victim support. They have a proud history, and there's a video on the mayoral social media threads about their story. They go back to before the First World War. In the Second World War, they provided the women who did the dangerous work with SOE, the Special Operations Executive, the women who went into occupied Europe, often at huge personal cost. So many of them did not survive, but they were leaders, they were courageous, but they were skilled, and they were optimistic about making change. And I thought, with our responsibilities in this 80th year after the end of the Second World War, when we marked effectively the passing of that generation that did so much for us, I thought that having them as one of the two charities was the right and proper thing. And they've been, again, wonderful partners in the fundraising We've got a quiz night on the 17th of October. We've just had 2 ladies, one from each of the charities, run 10Ks. I could walk 10Ks, that's not the issue. I could even march 10Ks possibly in the old days, but there is no way I would run 10Ks. They've done it they raised money, but they also, made sure that people were aware that they were in the race that just happened a few days ago. And so both charities are grounded in common sense, courage, and care. And I could not ask for better partners this year.
And how can members of our community get involved in helping to fundraise for your charities? You mentioned events. How can people get to hear about these events so that they can attend and support in the finance raising?
Well, by all means, please drop by. We have the council website, so you can find the mayor relatively easily on the council website. We have also the mayoral social media, Facebook. We've got the Insta type account. We've got the X account, and we also have a LinkedIn account. But you can also find us through the Mayoral Charitable Fund, and there is a link through the council website to that. If I can find it on the internet, most people can find it on the internet. It is a relatively easy process. We are taking donations. You can give a donation completely separate from any of our fundraising events. There'll be a dinner, there'll be a comedy night. We've got the quiz night, which is always fun, but raises money. But importantly, we've been to the corner house with the new mugs, the ukulele band. Now, we had fun. We raised a lot of smiles, but we also raised money. So we are doing things, but it's not always event orientated. People can be generous with a donation. So business houses, individuals, families, if you give us a donation, it will flow through directly at the end of the mayoral year to those 2 organisations, and they will spend that money in the Borough of Kingston upon Thames on their activities to promote good. And I think that's so important. It's investing in our future as a community.
Yeah. If there are any community groups watching this podcast who would love to welcome you to one of their events, how would they go about inviting you?
Well, I'm going to let you in on a terrible secret, and I'll probably get in trouble for that. The mayor is not technically allowed to invite himself or herself, but amazingly, there is a little button, there is a little link on the website. It says, invite the mayor to your event. If you write to the mayoral team will have a look at it. There's a little form to fill out. It's incredibly straightforward. And then you make the reason behind, we're doing this fundraising, we're doing this annual meeting, we're showcasing this activity. It could be the Sea Scouts, it could be a nursing home, it could be a church auxiliary. It doesn't matter the group. You offer the suggestion, and then the team and myself and the deputy mayor, we look at the diaries. The principle is always, we will say yes if we can do it. Mm-hmm. And we work on the basis that we want to add value. We want to help groups in their endeavours. And if groups are supportive of what we're doing, we appreciate them being partners in this maybe somewhat onerous, but incredibly and passionately enjoyable 53 weeks. It's a 53-week privilege to serve as the Mayor of Kingston upon Thames. I get to take them to the election and about a week after. So, and then I hand over the chains to the new mayor, because it is a 12-month, effectively, term of office.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add that I've not covered already?
Well, Alison, I just think importantly, you've picked up on the key point that the mayor is for everyone and the mayor is 150% non-political. You can also keep up to date with what the mayoral team is doing, because I have a column in the Kingston Council newsletter. You sign up for that newsletter on the website. There's plenty of good information, practical information, but you also have an insight, a bit of a sneak view of what we've been up to or what we're about to do.
Lovely. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain what an office that has been held by 191 office holders over this period of true history. Thank you so much.
Thank you.